Greetings, viewers. As a reminder, there are promotional links in the description that help support our channel. But before we dive into our topic, we want to let you know that this content is created by artificial intelligence. We're doing our best to make it perfect, but if you notice any mistakes or irrelevant media, please let us know in the comments. We're here to learn and grow together. Now, let's get started. Today we're exploring the decline in U.S. democracy, a troubling topic highlighted in a recent report from the Brookings Institution. This decline, according to the report, is largely due to three main factors: election manipulation, executive overreach, and the erosion of democratic institutions. It's a complex issue with variations in state-level democratic practices and the long-standing anti-democratic aspects of U.S. governance playing significant roles. We encourage you to stay with us as we delve deeper into these issues, and remember, if you find this video informative and valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us. First on the list is election manipulation. It's a term that's been making headlines, and for good reason. You see, since 2010, state legislatures across the United States have been subtly changing the rules of the game. They've been restricting voter access and adding a political spin to election administration. But what does this all mean, and how does it impact our democratic practices? The essence of democracy is the ability of citizens to freely cast their vote and choose their leaders. However, when state legislatures limit access to this fundamental right, it's akin to eroding the very foundations of democracy. Restricting voter access can take various forms, from implementing strict voter identification laws to reducing early voting periods and even to purging voter rolls. These practices disproportionately affect marginalized communities and can discourage voter participation. Now let's delve into the politicization of election administration. It's not something we often think about, but the people who oversee our elections can greatly influence their outcome. When these roles become politicized, it can lead to partisan decision-making, which in turn can undermine public trust in the electoral process and the results it produces. The impact of these manipulations on democratic practices is profound. They can skew election results, create barriers to political participation, and ultimately lead to a decline in democratic quality. They can also foster a political environment where power is held by a select few, rather than being distributed among the people. These issues are not mere theoretical concerns, they have real-world implications. They affect the way we engage with our political system, the leaders we elect, and the policies they implement. They are a stark reminder that the health of our democracy is not guaranteed. It must be constantly nurtured and protected. Such manipulations have significantly affected the democratic process. Democracy as a system thrives on the active participation of its citizens. However, when that participation is hindered through manipulative practices, the democratic process suffers. It's a complex issue with roots deep in the political landscape, and it's one that we must continue to scrutinize and address if we want to preserve the integrity of our democratic system. Next, we examine the issue of executive overreach. The term executive overreach refers to instances where the executive branch of a government extends its powers beyond the limits set by the Constitution. It's like a basketball player stepping out of their designated zone, but with far-reaching consequences that can impact the very fabric of a society. In the context of the United States, the phenomenon of executive overreach has been a matter of concern in recent years. It's a slippery slope that can contribute to democratic decline if left unchecked. A key characteristic of a healthy democracy is the balance of power. When this balance shifts, and the executive branch begins to exert more power than it should, we start to see the erosion of democratic principles. Consider this: a president who bypasses the legislative process to enact laws, or a governor who uses executive orders excessively. These actions, while sometimes necessary, can lead to a concentration of power that undermines the checks and balances system. The consequences of unchecked executive power are far-reaching. For instance, it can lead to the undermining of other branches of government, such as the judiciary and legislature. This imbalance can create a cycle where the executive branch continues to accumulate power, further eroding the democratic fabric of a nation. Additionally, unchecked executive power can also impact the citizens directly. It can lead to policies and decisions that do not reflect the will of the people, and are instead aligned with the interests of those in power. In essence, executive overreach can slowly transform a democracy into an autocracy, where power is concentrated in the hands of a few rather than being distributed among the many. Unchecked executive power poses a serious threat to democratic principles. As citizens, it's crucial to be aware of these dynamics and understand the importance of checks and balances in preserving the ideals of democracy. After all, a democracy is not just about the right to vote, but also about ensuring that power is balanced and that every branch of government is held accountable. Lastly, let's consider the erosion of democratic institutions. These are the pillars that hold up any democratic society, the structures that give us the ability to freely voice our opinions, to vote, and to be represented fairly. They include everything from our voting systems to our courts, from the free press to the rule of law. So what happens when these institutions begin to crumble? Well, democracy itself starts to wane. Our ability to participate in our own governance, to hold our leaders accountable, and to ensure the protection of our rights becomes compromised. This erosion doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, often so subtle that it may go unnoticed until it's too late. In the United States, we've seen this erosion in various forms. Voting rights, for instance, have been restricted in some states, making it harder for certain populations to cast their ballots. The politicization of election administration has cast doubt on the integrity of our electoral process. The judiciary, too, has not been immune. When the courts become politicized, it undermines their ability to provide impartial justice, to act as a check on the powers of the executive and legislative branches. Even the free press, often dubbed the Fourth Estate for its crucial role in democracy, has come under fire. When media outlets are discredited, it can undermine public trust and hamper their ability to hold power to account. All these are symptoms of a weakening democratic infrastructure. And it's not just about the institutions themselves, it's about the norms and values that underpin them. Respect for the rule of law, commitment to truth, belief in equality, and fair representation. When these are eroded, the very fabric of our democracy starts to fray. The weakening of democratic institutions is a silent yet potent factor in the decline of U.S. democracy. Having explored the causes, we now turn our attention to the current state of U.S. democracy. The United States, once seen as a beacon of democratic principles and freedom, has seen a marked decline in these areas, according to various global indices. The Freedom House, for instance, has shown a downward trend in the U.S.'s ratings, reflecting growing concerns about the health of its democratic institutions. The U.S. now finds itself among the flawed democracies, a term used to describe countries where freedom and democratic practices are compromised. This decline hasn't happened overnight, but rather it's the result of a series of choices made by political leaders over the years. Let's take a comparative look at where the U.S. stands among other democracies. Countries like Norway, Iceland, and Sweden consistently top the list of the world's most democratic nations. They are classified as full democracies, where civil liberties and basic political freedoms aren't just respected but also reinforced. In stark contrast, the U.S. is falling behind, grappling with issues like election manipulation, executive overreach, and the erosion of democratic institutions. At the state level, the picture is not uniform across the U.S. Some states have taken steps to enhance voter access and strengthen democratic practices. Others, however, have regressed, implementing measures that restrict voter access and politicize election administration. The historical context also plays a part in this decline. Long-standing anti-democratic aspects of U.S. governance, such as gerrymandering and the influence of money in politics, have made the system more susceptible to erosion. It's clear that the U.S. has experienced a significant decline in democratic practices, but understanding this is the first step towards addressing it. The future of U.S. democracy depends on the choices made now, the reforms implemented, and the value placed on the principles that once made it a model for nations around the world. In conclusion, it's evident that the U.S. democracy is in a state of decline. We've delved into the complexities of election manipulation, executive overreach, and the erosion of democratic institutions. We've also highlighted the current state of U.S. democracy, clearly demonstrating that this decline is driven by political leaders' choices, not a sudden shift in public opinion. As citizens, it's crucial to stay informed about these issues and actively participate in democratic processes. Your involvement can make a difference in halting this decline and restoring the health of our democracy. Remember, your voice matters. In the spirit of supporting our channel, we invite you to check out the promotional links in the description below. These links not only help us continue producing content like this, but they also provide you with valuable resources. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this video. Your feedback is important to us, so feel free to leave your comments. Also, you can search for American Northwest Aviation on Google and navigate to our parent venture, American Northwest Ventures. Please note that on a smartphone you may need to click on More to see the entire description, and you may need to do this several times for a long description. If you're watching on a TV, you'll need to access the links from a laptop or mobile device. Thank you for watching. Your support is greatly appreciated.